Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of No Holding Back, the podcast with me, your girl, Taylor T. This is a podcast where we spotlight the highs and lows that creators face on their journey to success. And today, I got to have a beautiful conversation with Miss Keisha Brewer, a comms professional, expert, all the things, and owner of ProCon. She has her own conference, and she also owns her own marketing agency. And today, we got to get into her story, how she came into the world of communications, how she got over her fears of speaking in front of individuals, and how she was able to build her conference ProCon to what it is today. So without further ado, we have another episode of No Holding Back. Thank you so much, Keisha, for coming by No Holding Back, the podcast. Here, we love to dive into the highs and lows that creators face on their journey to success. So I'm so excited to get into your story and how you created ProCon and your agency and just you just being a Black woman in leadership and how you grew into this role. So for those who might not know who you are, I would love for you to go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I am Keisha Brewer. I am a woman of God, woman of faith, an entrepreneur, as you've mentioned, two-time entrepreneur now with the launch of ProCon, which I can't believe, and just overall a really passionate communicator. I'm really passionate about communication.
Yes. So outside of the titles and the recognition in your roles as a leader with your businesses and organization, who is Keisha Brewer outside of that?
Yeah. I think really just a creative, a visionary, and not even in the sense of work. Just in the sense of anything I see, I feel like I'm trying to problem solve or think bigger with, or how can I create it into something that's my own. I think that's why I love communications, even outside of the work that I do. I love the idea that you can create with your words. You can create scenarios. You can create the life you want. You can design the relationships that you want just by communicating appropriately. You can destroy in communications. So I like creating. And I think communications is the biggest form of creation.
Now, has communication and community always been a part of your life? Because from what I've heard or seen recently in my observations, actually, there's always like small little trails of who you are from childhood that kind of just echo and lead into your adult life. So have you always been somebody that has been about community and just a communicator in general?
Yeah. Ironically, growing up, I felt like I lacked both. So I lacked community, not because it wasn't there, but because it wasn't there how I wanted it to be. And then I definitely lacked communication in the sense of owning my own voice. Little Keisha is like, how are you on a podcast sharing your thoughts and perspectives and on stages sharing your thoughts and perspectives? Because I was nervous just to speak up in a room of two. So I think that a lot of what I'm passionate about today is because I lacked it growing up, and I'm kind of just finding it now. And it's kind of a beautiful story out of hurt and pain, right? Of not having the community or not feeling like your voice was being heard. And now I'm kind of like stepping into that fully.
What was the hesitation that you had about like sharing your voice and speaking up in front of that group of two? Because I can say, just as me personally, that is something that I struggled with for a long time, and you would never guess because I do stuff like this or I'm really social in person, but I struggle in meeting settings and things like that. Like it was something that I had to really work through.
Yeah.
So what was your mindset during the time where it was hard for you to speak up and use your voice?
I think it was acceptance of either just who I am or my idea or my perspective. I think even like in the workforce, as people are saying, kind of similar to what you're saying, in meetings, a lot of people feel like I got an idea, but I ain't going to say too much. But I think that that's really coming from a fear of acceptance. Like, will they not like what I'm sharing, or is it going to be dumb? Like, be honest. Like, we are our own critics in our heads. Like, maybe that's dumb. Maybe they already thought about that and I'm not thinking deep enough. So I think it was acceptance, honestly.
Yeah. And how did you overcome that?
I think I'm still overcoming it. I think that I just have more of a sink or swim mindset. It's more of a what happens if you don't versus what happens if you do. So I think a lot of times our mindset is what happens if I speak up? What happens if I X, Y, and Z? But we don't take into account what happens if you don't. That's an idea miss. That is, I'm sure even you creating this podcast, it was like, child,
girl,
the fears that come up. But
yes,
it's like, what happens if you don't? Someone's not going to be blessed by a voice that you're going to bring on, by your voice. Somebody needs this right now, and you're literally the vessel for it. So what happens when you hold on to it versus letting it go? And so I think that's what the fears still arise. All of that still arises, but I'm like, you got to do it, because what happens if you don't?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting because one of my mentors, she actually said that you're never going to get over the idea of being nervous before you speak and all those things. So it's interesting for you to say that you still have it, but you kind of push through those feelings because you have a TED Talk.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind when people are like, you're still nervous to speak. When I tell you, and you can't even tell because I was the calmest. I look back at that video all the time and I'm like, I am so poised and calm. That is the grace of God, because I felt like I was going to puke on that stage. I was like, please hurry up. And I had 10 minutes and I'm like, this clock needs to move. And you can't tell.
No.
But it was, again, one of those sink or swim situations. You already up here, sis. So
now you got to keep going.
You already up here. So you're going to flop or you're going to make this a great story. And so you got a decision every time.
And might I add, it has 1.2 million views. I was looking at it the other day.
And it's taught in schools and universities. They use it for their communications classes. Really? I get DMs all the time from teachers, from professors saying that we're using this in our curriculum. I had a friend that was using it in her curriculum at school. So I'm shocked myself. I'm like, ain't nobody paying me, but that's fine. That's fine. It's getting to the people.
And how did you prepare that? Like, so how did that opportunity even come to exist for you?
My mom and I, we were on a call and I was talking actually about how PR has a PR problem. And I was like, people don't really understand public relations. So in its own sense, it's doing poorly of its public relations. And then we were just going through just different topics that were related. And I came across, it's not manipulation, it's strategic communications. And that's what we came across. And my mom was like, you got to do a TED Talk. You got to do. And I was like, girl.
Okay, mama.
But don't tell me I got to do something because I just might. And so I started literally researching, like, is that possible? Do people just, because I didn't know people just apply and just do that.
Yeah, people think it's really hard to get those opportunities. It's really not.
I didn't even know anything about it. So I was like, so I did the research and I was like, I think I can apply. And there was an application open and I actually missed the deadline. But I'm a publicist, right? So I know how to do a good pitch. I was like, I'm going to do a pitch. I'm going to send an email. And I did. And they was like, we got a slot. We got a slot open. Yeah. And so I went from delivering my TED Talk at that same location to the very next year coaching the others who were doing their TED Talks. So there were 7 brilliant. They were actually students of the university. 7 brilliant, just brilliant. And it ended up being outsiders as well. So like about 12. Yeah. And I coached them through theirs. And the same space on the same stage that I had just been super nervous months before doing mine.
Wow. Why is that? I feel like, is that public information? Do you talk about how you had to coach?
I did a reel, just one.
Oh, girl. That's why I couldn't find that.
I did a reel. Yeah, that's it. Just one back in 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I coached them through it and it was the most amazing experience, from literally conception, like literally thinking through their idea, conceptualizing, to presentation, to delivery, to me being in the front row on the day of, cheering them on and, looking at them like, look at the audience, don't look at me.
Wow.
So the whole thing.
To go from somebody who was afraid to even speak in front of a party of 2 to now doing the TED Talk, having all of these views, and then now you're training
coaching
people,
others.
You're coaching people to do that. How does that make you feel when you look back on just that small little segment of your life?
You can't make it up. Like, I couldn't have designed this. I couldn't have planned this. Like, God is just really good. That's what it makes me think. And it's not until moments like this when you start piecing together, like when people piece it together for you, that you realize, like, wow, when you go back to, my childhood and being, like you said, that scared person, just to talk in a room of 2 and just to tell my mom I'm hungry. I'm like, let me be quiet, because she might be like, what you hungry for? Like, just little things to someone who was literally on one of the biggest stages in the world. helping others do the same. That's incredible. That's not me.
That's beautiful. And that's something I couldn't find on the internet. So I'm so happy that we got to tap into that.
Yeah.
I would love to know. So at what point in your, educational path did you decide that you wanted to be a communicator? I know you started off in journalism and the pivot came at some point, but at what point? I sure do. Journalist first, marketer second. But yeah, so at what point in your, did you decide that communications was going to be the route for you?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I don't know that it was something that was like a hardcore decision as much as it was like I kind of slid into it. So, for example, in college, I started off as a business major. It was boring. I was like, I got to get something else out of this. I got to leave here with something. And then I transitioned over into what they call English communication. So I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and there's an English major, but they're split into two, like English in the literature form, and you want to become a teacher and teach English. And then there's a communication side where they talked about news writing, reporting, etc. So I chose the communication side. And then I landed an internship not because I was like super passionate. I was just like, it sounds like something you're supposed to do when you're in college, get an internship. And there was a news station down the street. And so my professor helped me get into that. And I knew I loved to write. I did know I loved to write. And it's very interesting. Things come out when you're on a podcast, when you're talking to people like this, because now when I'm literally having a flashback of, I remember being in my room. I'm from Owings Mills. I grew up there. And I remember going through magazines and going to the back and looking at the editors and writers and thinking like, I can write something here. So when I say I didn't really choose the path, maybe I kind of did subconsciously, because I knew I loved to write and I knew I wanted to write. So then when I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore and then went into English, it just felt right. So then going to the news writing space, it felt right. But at the same time, I felt like I wasn't enough a part of the narrative that helped make it come together. It was like people came to me and was like, write about this. And I'm like, well, how did that happen? Like, I want more.
You want to control, but I don't control the story, but you want to be a part of creating the story.
And it's like, I want more and not just knowing more. I want it to be there. I wanted to craft the whole thing. And so I was like, what is that? I literally went on Google and was like, so what does it mean when you like to do this? and then public relations came up. And then I was just directed by people like, yeah, public relations is a thing. And I didn't even know about it. So that's a long journey to it. But thank you for kind of unveiling. Like, I remember when I was flipping through magazines saying, like, I wanted to be a writer.
I think all of our journeys, like the people or Black girls who work in communications, we all start off with the magazine.
Yeah.
And we start off, I don't know about you, but of course my mom had the Ebonies, the Jets growing up.
Yes.
But then for me, it was like the Teen Vogues, the 17 magazines, Word Up magazine, or like,
See, actually, yes. I would cut out the Word Up, like, B2K, put it on that's what I did there.
Posters in the back of the magazine. I think all of our journeys really start off in that space.
That's so true.
Yeah. And here we are today, like, working in it in some type of way, in some capacity. But
because it inspired us. It stuck with us in some type of way. Yeah. And sometimes we don't even like pay credit to that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you made your pivot while you were still in college to PR from journalism?
No. So about maybe 2 years after.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years after college.
And so what did you think you were going to be when you graduated from college?
I knew something in the communications field, but definitely not starting my own business. Definitely. So right after college, I worked at Sinclair Broadcast Group. And so I was what they call an inventory advertising specialist. So I would help them air the commercials on TV. And so I knew I wanted to be in some level of communications. I didn't know where. I knew I was still in discovery of like, do I want to be in advertising? Do I want to be in marketing? Where did I want to be? It wasn't defined. And entrepreneurship, I no. I couldn't have wrote that myself.
And
that wasn't me.
It's hard. It's a hard life.
I'm still like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Why is this for me?
Did you have like this vision of who you thought you were going to be at the end of like your college career when you went out into the world as, someone in communications? Did you have like this vision?
I kept having visions of me being in a boardroom and there were people, and I had a presentation on the screen, and they were all like really clapping. I literally, it's the same, I can see it in my head now. I used to always see that. Now I don't know what that tells me, but that tells me I'm delivering presentations and doing something. That's all I had.
Oh,
that's
wow.
all I had. Yeah.
So when you fell into PR and you decided to take that route and go in that direction, was there like a sense of like, or entrepreneurship rather, you know, sometimes we kind of grieve a version of ourselves that we thought we were going to be. Did you ever look back like, dang, like, is this really the path that I chose? Like, is this really where I'm supposed to be at for real?
In the beginning, I didn't. In the beginning, I felt the opposite. I felt like I finally discovered what's going to get me up in the morning, what's going to keep me going, my drive. I would actually say that feeling comes more now, where I'm like, man, I could have just been in corporate America, close my laptop at 5 and go home and do, because I be seeing people at the happy hours. I'm like, I'm still behind the
work
computer. Work ain't done until work is done, and work ain't never done in entrepreneurship. And so I think sometimes now grieve like, dang, I could have had a real well-balanced life. If that is even achievable. I think, you know, at this point I'm trying to reach harmony more than I'm trying to reach balance. But I think that's the part that gets me sometimes, like, dang, this could have been so simple.
What helps you keep going and not, you know, because your resume, I'm pretty sure, is deep. And so you can apply for the jobs and you could probably get the 9 to 5. But what keeps you so attached to entrepreneurship and the grind of it all?
Yeah, I'm actually currently both at my 9 to 5 and in entrepreneurship.
Oh.
It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing, just because I'm literally doing about 40 hours in both. Like, it's me on my 2 laptops like this, like all day. So when people be like, oh, your business is part-time. Oh no, I probably clocked in 50 hours. In fact, this week.
Wow.
But I would say, what keeps me going? It's just knowing what's on the other side of it. There are as many businesses that are coming to life. Like Black women, shout out to us. We are creating businesses at unprecedented rates. We are at the top of this game, and I'm so proud of us. But there is data that shows how many people fail after 3 years, how many people fail after 5 years. But when you see the journey of, if you can push past that 3, that 5, or that challenge or that pivot, you know what's on the other side of that. That is, you know, just success, just feeling like, hey, I lived out exactly what I wanted to. Or maybe it is generational wealth for your family. Whatever you're trying to get to, I definitely think it's obtainable. But I would hate to say what happened if I kept going versus just continuing to keep going and seeing what's on the other side. So I think that might be what it is.
I love that. Your what if is scarier than how you feel in the moment.
That's so true. The what if is very scary. I do believe, you know, literally, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, I had told everybody, like, I'm shutting down this business. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm giving up the conference. I'm giving up the agency. I said that for a good 2 hours, but I said it nonetheless. And I meant it when I said it. But quickly, I was like, no, you just tired, because you know that if you would have let this all go, you're going to be like, what if? And you don't want that. You don't want that out of life.
Yeah, and I feel like you've poured so much into it. It's kind of like,
oh, yeah.
You know, if you just give it all up, it has to be for something that you can rationalize.
Absolutely.
You can't rationalize your feelings.
Yeah,
I
can't rationalize I was tired. I can't.
When you tell somebody, oh, so why'd you end ProCon? Because I was tired.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
But the thing is, tired is a real feeling.
It is.
And it is an okay feeling. And I don't even fault those who be like, I'm just tired and I had to step away from my mental health. And I get it. But I think sometimes we have to identify if that's a moment or a milestone. Meaning, like, is this a milestone situation where it's like, this needs to change the trajectory of where I'm going? Or is this just a moment where you can pick up and move on?
How did you go ahead and get started with building your organization? Where did that come from?
Yeah. So I would say the inspiration started with when our agency, the PR Alliance, started getting more traction. And because of that, a lot of people were coming to ask advice. I want to get into public relations. I want to start my own public relations agency. How did you do it? All of those things. And what I realized was, the communications industry is so different than so many other industries where people don't really understand the end. It's like,
there's like no solid end.
There is no solid
No,
end.
not at all.
And a lot of people's end is their connections or a mentor, or, I just happened to apply and I got, an entry level position and worked my way up. But a lot of other industries are like, take this certification and get this degree.
Girl.
And the pipeline is there. For us, it's like, where's the pipeline?
And sometimes you got to create the pipeline. It ain't given to you. None of this stuff is given. Like,
absolutely.
This is an example. Your conference as an example. You having a TED Talk. Nobody tells you in school. Like, so if you do a TED Talk and if you do this and if you do that, you'll end up having this grand,
absolutely,
grand thing.
But then to like be a doctor or something else, it's kind of like, you get these degrees and you should be pretty good. You go to but it's not like that for communications. There's a lot of gray. And so I realized I needed to create a space for people to figure out how to navigate and how to get into the industry. What I did was I went around to every friend in communications that I could think of. And I was like, is this on your heart? Is this in your spirit? Like, do you want to do it? And everyone said yes, but not with the burning yes and passion that I had. And I was so nervous. I didn't want to do it on my own. And mainly because I didn't want to fail on my own. I thought I was going to fail, to be honest. And I was just like, this is not letting me go. I took a few years after having the idea. I had the idea in the midst of COVID or right before. So 2019, 2020, I had the idea. And our first conference didn't launch till 2022 because I was holding on to it until I got sick of myself. And I was like, this is not going to let me go. And sick of myself to the point where I called my friend, shout out to Brandy Chu, and I was like, I think I'm about to launch the conference like next month. Like, as fast as you can put, she runs a marketing agency. I'm like, as fast as you can put up a website is as fast as we're going to launch this. Because if I hold on to this, it's going to be 2 more years. So we did it. And
so what was that moment? Was it like something spoke to you? Like, did you see something that made you feel like now was the time to actually do it? Or were you aligned? Did something just spark in you? Or was it just like, I'm tired?
Yeah.
I'm letting it go.
I can see exactly where I was, like literally sitting on my couch and in my apartment or in Laurel, and I can see it all, but I don't know what that switch was. But I really do believe it's now or never. I can also probably guess that, because I used to do this a lot, I would scroll on social media and see other people stepping out on faith and launching things similar. And I'm like, so what's holding me up? Like, what is it about me that's in my own way if I'm literally watching the evidence of it being possible? Evidence used to be such a big word for me. Like, we always say like, oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. But then there's evidence of people doing it all over, the same things you want to do. And so if I can guess, it was probably seeing so much evidence of the possibilities and being like, then it's just me in my own way. So we're going to have to pull the trigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, you put up this recent post of you really being vulnerable and talking about how you max out your 401k for ProCon and all the things. I mean, what was the sentiment behind that post? Because I don't want to say it was random, but that's not expected from someone in leadership, being that vulnerable and honest about, the shortcomings that you had to overcome to build ProCon to be what it is today.
Yeah.
So where were you in that moment when you put that post out?
In that moment, I was laying in my bed and I was talking to ProCon's previous brand director, JL. Shout out to JL. And I was like, I want to share my story. And I wasn't talking about that story in particular, actually. I just was like, I want to share my story and journey of ProCon. What I had in my mind was like 2022, we had this keynote, and 2023, that's what I had in my mind until I get there. I'm on my phone, I'm on CapCut, I'm trying to do all the things. And I'm like, I can put out this nice fluffy story, but that is not exactly what I'm feeling. In that moment, I was like, how are we about to pay for this conference for 2025? And why is money always an issue every time I got to figure out something with ProCon? And why don't these sponsors feel like this is valuable enough? Those were the feelings I was having. Meanwhile, about to create a post of like 2022's keynote. And I'm like, that's not the tone. And I just was like, I have to be true to me. And I know it works. And what I mean by works is I know there's someone out there that's going to be like, yep, Same thing. Me too. And I'm honestly tired of the highlight reels. I say I'm tired of the highlight reels for people, but then I was about to create one myself. And so I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that today. Today I'm going to share what my feelings are in this moment. And I think what you found in that post is the best of two worlds. Is me saying like, yes, this is tough. And yes, I'm pulling out 401ks to make this happen. And yes, we're growing every year, but I'm trying to figure out how this is going to even work. But yes, I'm still so passionate about this. And yes, I still love this community so much. And yes, we are back. And so that is the tug of war that I have every day. Like, this community is worth keeping going for. But I am a little stressed. This money is crazy. So it's two things can be true. And I think that's what that showed.
How important do you think it is for leaders like yourself to be vulnerable and to be honest? Because I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I feel like when you opened up that, so many people are able to see themselves in you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it makes sense for me to go ahead and pull this out of my savings to have, or to pour into my vision, or it is okay for me to take the step to go this way and not the other way, or take the safe route, because everything you're doing is not safe.
Yeah.
You are literally walking out on faith and just, doing what you can, taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is for leaders, Black female leaders, to be honest? Because we like to show up, a little, because we have to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is?
So what you alluded to with the we have to is exactly why this is such a difficult conversation to have. And it's difficult to give one answer, because the minute we're that value or that vulnerable, people start to devalue us. It's like, oh, well, she doesn't have the money to put on this conference. It's like, the reason why we're trying to show up with this armor and we're trying to show up with this, smile on our face is because we want people to see us in a certain light, to see us as that leader, to see us as thriving. There's this perception of like, we got to look like we have it all together so that we can attract the other people that have it all together, so that we can all do work together. I mean, I know that everyone has the person in their mind of like, yes, I'm trying to get to something similar like that. Mine would be Imani from CultureCon.
Okay.
Love my girl. Love my girl. And so I saw CultureCon and was like, I can do that for the PR and communications community. But then I'm like, but this is hard and this is difficult. So do I show the hard and the difficult, or do I do a photo shoot and smile and be like, this is great? And so it's a battle, because everyone's trying to figure out, should I be vulnerable and risk being devalued? Or should I like really just be as transparent as possible and just live in my truth? I don't even have an answer for that.
Wow.
And the reason why I don't have an answer for that, because I'm in public relations, I'm in branding, I'm in marketing, and everything is make it look as great as possible. But the reality is everything's not as great as possible. So do you lean into the storytelling, or do you lean into the perception?
Wow.
It's a difficult question.
So with that, do you feel pressure at all
to
perform? And what does that pressure feel like for you?
It feels like always fighting to prove my value. It feels like always fighting to feel like what I already know I am.
Wow.
So, someone who has more likes and more followers and, sponsors are coming at them because they're taking pictures next to all the celebrities or whatever the case may be. But there's no knowledge gap. I know what they know. I build what they build. I do what they do. But the perception makes it look like there's some type of gap. My 9,000 followers on social media and someone's 100,000, but behind the scenes, we're doing nothing different. It makes you feel like you have to perform to be where they are when you actually already are.
And
mentally,
that's exhausting.
Physically. Yeah, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And you battle. Like, it's all politics, but do you play into it? Because the people playing into it are getting the funds. They're getting those things that you say you want. And this is the game. Do you play the game, or do you just be yourself? It's really hard. And I think you be yourself at all times, but there's still a game. There's still a game to be played.
Define the game for me.
The game of perception. It's the game of perception. It is the, hey, only 20 people came to my workshop, but zoom in so that it looks like 50, so it looks like
Oh,
100.
you're talking about the photo.
Yeah, I mean, everything.
I feel you.
All
Yes.
of us are trying to paint this picture that we are on a level 3 notches up from where we actually are. And I can't say I haven't done it. So I can't even tell someone not to do it because I understand the magnitude of it. If I only show the 20 people in the room, people are going to be like, oh, no, I don't want to go to that. That's fine. I'm not going to go because perception is driving everybody. So you can stand out and be like, nope, I had 20 and that's it. But what do you risk? People being like, well, I ain't going. There only 20 people there. So then you zoom in to make it look like the 100. I mean, that's just an example of what we're doing constantly to look like we're 3 notches up from what we are because there's shame. So we think when we're not in that, that sphere.
Well, I can tell you, Keisha, from what you built with ProCon and just me attending last year and just paying attention and observing the types of women and men that were in the room and, their spirit and their heart, you're building a community that is real.
Yeah.
And it is people that actually need ProCon. To be in that room and be amongst individuals who don't probably get a chance to even mingle with certain people on the panel. They don't even get that chance.
Yeah.
And they were able to do that. They were able to make connections.
Yeah.
You're building something so special, especially here in the DMV because we don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't have it. We're not New York where everything can happen in New York, right? Or we're not LA where everything can happen, but what you're building is so special.
Yeah.
And I think once you continue to tell more of that story of what it does for your community at large, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. I'm always so amazed at what happens when you just be obedient to what God says, regardless of how hard it is. Because last conference, the conference before it, at the end, I always make sure I talk to as many people as I can, and people were coming over like with tears in their eyes, like, I really needed this. And child, I'm like, we just talking about marketing and PR, but
it's
there's
a relief.
something else. There's something else in that room. There's the community, the authenticity. I literally used to always say the most authentic space for public relations, marketing, media, and communications professionals. And what I meant by that was I didn't want anyone we put on that stage to come with fluff and that perception that we're talking about. I'm like, this is your time. Take off all that gear, take off all those masks, and just talk to the people. They're just trying to get to the next level, just like you. And so for me, that authenticity, even though it's a word so often used, it's really true. I want people to be authentic and transparent and feel like they finally have a space where they can be like, girl, I got 2 likes on my YouTube channel. What to do? Versus feeling like they got to hide that they got 2 likes on their YouTube channel, right?
Absolutely.
People do it all the time. So that's what I want to build. And I hope I am.
You are. And me as someone that is an avid conference goer, I love going to conferences and things. When I went to one prior to yours, I got that experience. It was okay.
Okay.
And then yours was like the following week or a few weeks later. Okay. And I was like, oh, I like this because it felt very much like real people, everyday actionable steps.
Yeah.
This is what you do, you know, and I appreciated that from your conference.
Yeah.
So speaking of the conference, I would love for you to talk about what's next. I know you made an announcement today on social media.
So we made an announcement about the theme from influence to impact. And shout out to our director, Thomas, Miriam, Javon. The programming team under ProCon came up with that. And I love it. I love it because it tells a story about where we should be going. That when you go to a lot of the conferences and events, they're focusing on how do I get as many big names as possible so that I can sell out the tickets. And while, of course, in the back of our mind, we're thinking the same thing. The people sell the tickets now. So we're thinking that. But also, there are so many people behind the scenes making true impact. They got one picture on social media. I mean, literally, we're going to be dropping someone that literally has one picture on social media, but she does PR for the entire New York Fashion Week.
Wow.
It's the people behind the scenes that are really making the impact that you should be trying to rub shoulders with, not your biggest celebrity that's just going to say, hey, keep going. And then you go back to your computer and you're like, so what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
I want you to really be in the rooms with people that are going to give you the strategies behind the scenes and show you how to create real impact and not just influence. And I think influence has a space in comms. I think influence is great if you use it appropriately. But I do want us to not focus so much on influence that we forget the impact. And so that's the theme. And I'm so excited that y'all are going to hear from some real folks, like not just some flashy folks, some real folks doing some real things. I'm excited about it.
How is this one different from any other conference that you've had in the past?
Yeah. I know what the community needs now. I think previously I was still collecting data on that, what that looks like, what do people actually care about. I'm listening more to the DMs that I'm getting and the emails that I'm getting on what people actually want, and I'm targeting that. And I think what makes this different is that you're going to walk into a space that feels timely for where we are. We're talking journalism layoffs like no other. We're talking an economy that is absolutely flipped on top of its head. We're talking people. This should be the peak of when job offers are being sent out and people can't find a job whatsoever. So we're bringing our first ever career fair to ProCon. We have gotten sponsors willing to give us tens of thousands of dollars to do, like, I'm not even going to call it out because then it's going to be so obvious who these people are. But to do things that I was like, I'm going to turn that down because instead of that, I'm going to do a career fair. So either you want to do that or you don't want to put your money to it. And they didn't want to do that. But that's what I wanted to do because I knew for sure that we need those jobs right now. So what you're going to hear or what you're going to see is a community, a space that understands where you are.
I love that.
So I'm excited about that.
Giving the people what they need.
Yeah.
Not what they should, not what people think they should have. It's what they actually need to survive in
Absolutely.
these times.
And also, we always say that ProCon is value and vibe. So you're going to get all the value. I mean,
the vibes do be there.
And the
vibes do be there.
Because if you're in VIP, you open bar. Okay. DJ Davy J, the music is going. I mean, the vibes are there because I also believe there's another part of it. You don't want to go to a space that feels stuffy. It's hard to learn. We're talking about creative professionals, not just professionals. We're talking about creative professionals where you need to give them some let your hair down. Like, I might need a drink and some food and some vibes to really tap into my creativity. So I'm excited that we're going to be giving both.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Keisha, when, as you're on your grind and you're building your businesses and you are supporting the community here in the DMV, what do you hope that people are able to get from your grind? What do you want people to receive when they watch you work?
I want them to see that you can be exactly who you are, and still go just as far as you thought, even further. It's funny because the executive vice president, Fatu, at the PR Alliance, our agency, she said, "You're one of the few people I know that is literally all Keisha all the time." Like, there's not one person that would say that there's a different personality to you other than if you piss me off, child. But there's not no other person that would be like, no, Keisha's this way versus this. I didn't catch that. I'm all me all the time, even at my 9 to 5. There is no code switching. There's none of it.
I love that.
And, the funny part about it is people thought that there was, because I naturally talk with a level of just like energy and just what some people have to turn on. I never turn off.
That's so funny you say that because I've experienced the same thing in my life.
Yeah, this is me with my friends, my mom, whoever.
Yeah.
I can get on a call with my boss and be the same like I got on a call with my mom. And it works because you're likable. And I think people overlook what it looks like to be likable and how far being likable gets you. I mean, my managers at my 9 to 5 love me because I just be on the phone with them like, now, see, we know that don't make sense. And they like, you know what? It don't. I'm like, see? And you don't have to pretend that you have less of a personality or a different personality.
Absolutely.
But what you do have to do is make sure that you add value everywhere you go. And the difference is I make sure I do that on a phone call with my mom, or a phone call on my 9 to 5, or on a podcast. There is no difference. I try to add value wherever I go, and I also stay myself wherever I go.
So if you had someone in front of you that is trying to do what you do or is trying to pursue a career in communications, what advice would you have for them at this moment?
I'd be like, are you sure now?
No, don't scare them off.
I know, no. Communications is, I will say this. It has to be something you love. It has to be something you love because you are going to do more than half of the work and get less than half of the credit. And if you don't love it, you will think that your accolades are the applauses and the awards instead of your accolades being, that organization that you helped get to the next level, or that child that saw you that got inspired by you. You have to really redefine what success looks like for you, because you aren't going to get the applause that every other industry gets. Someone goes, you became a doctor, woo. No one goes, you became a communications professional, woo.
It's really a thankless field.
Yeah,
it's like out of sight, out of mind.
It absolutely
People don't even,
is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I mean, my father for the longest was like, Keisha writes for the Washington Post. No, I don't. You just got to say that to dress it up. Because he don't really understand what I do. But it gotta be big. It gotta be attached to something no one knows. But that's because the work that we actually do, it doesn't sound sexy.
No.
It doesn't sound sexy at all. And so you just have to love it. You really have to love it. And that's the advice I would give, because if you love it, the battle's done, because you're going to keep going. I don't have to tell you to keep going. If you love it, you're going to keep going, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to find a way to make sure that whatever needs to happen gets done. So I don't have to tell you to keep going. I just have to tell you to love it.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we have made it to the end of our interview.
Amazing.
We have a small segment that's called Claim It.
Okay.
So I have 2 sentences that I'm going to throw out to you, and you go ahead and just give me an answer.
Okay.
So the first one is, what are you claiming for yourself right now? Not what the world expects, but what your soul is asking for.
Oh, wow. I am claiming peace. Peace about just where I am today and not where I want to go tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you had to name this chapter of your life that you're in right now, what would you call it?
Let it all work out. Oh. That's what I would call it. But
I love it.
Let me see. I think that's what I would call it. I think I would also call it divine timing. A lot is happening for me this year. I'm selling a house. I'm buying a house. I'm getting married.
Oh,
yes. I'm launching ProCon year 4. I mean, a lot is happening this year.
It's a big year for you.
Yeah, but I think the timing, even though it feels so much and it feels like such a heavy weight, I think it couldn't be any more perfect. I think God is really launching me into my next. And sometimes when you're launching into your next, everything must be different. Your location must be different. Your partner must be different. Your friends must be different. Sometimes everything must be different. And I think a lot of things are getting different.
Well, I love that. I appreciate you for coming by.
Absolutely.
No holding back. I hope you had a good time.
Yes, I didn't hold back. So look, that's what we call success on No Holding Back.
Success, baby. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Until next time.